The silent shaper climate's role in human history. Climate has always been a powerful force. It has shaped human history in many ways. People often forget this powerful influence. We think of kings and queens. We think of wars and inventions, but the weather and climate were always there. They quietly directed the course of human events. Understanding this helps us see history differently. It shows us how nature and people are connected. This connection is very old and very important. Ancient civilizations knew about climate. They depended on predictable weather patterns. Farmers needed rain for their crops to grow. Rivers provided water for drinking and for irrigation. When these patterns changed, societies faced big challenges. Sometimes the changes were slow, other times they were sudden and catastrophic. These shifts could lead to migration or innovation. They could also lead to the collapse of entire cultures. The Earth's climate is not static, it changes. The study of past climates is called paleoclimatology. Scientists use many clues to learn about ancient weather. They study ice cores from glaciers. They look at tree rings. They examine sediment layers from lakes and oceans. These records tell us about temperature changes. They show periods of drought or heavy rain. This information helps us understand why some societies thrived. It also explains why others disappeared over time. It's like solving a very old puzzle. So climate is not just today's concern. It has been a critical factor throughout all of human existence. The stories of past societies are important. They offer lessons about adaptation and vulnerability. They remind us that even great civilizations can be fragile. When the environment changes, people must respond. How they respond often determines their fate. History is full of these environmental stories. We need to listen to them carefully. When the rains failed, case studies of climate collapse. The Akkadian Empire was one of the world's first empires. It flourished in Mesopotamia around 4,300 years ago. They built cities and developed writing. Their success depended on fertile lands. These lands were fed by rivers. But then a severe drought struck the region. This drought lasted for many decades, perhaps even a century. The lack of rain turned fertile plains into dust. This environmental shock was too much for them. The Great Maya civilization in Central America also faced climate challenges. They built impressive cities and studied the stars. Their society was complex and advanced for its time. However, between 800 and 1000 AD, they experienced prolonged droughts. These dry periods were very severe. Water sources dried up. Agriculture became very difficult. This climate stress contributed to the decline of their cities. People abandoned many urban centers. The jungles slowly reclaimed these magnificent places. Much later in Europe, the Great Famine of 1315 to 1317 occurred. This was not a drought, but too much rain. The spring and summer of 1315 were unusually wet and cold. Crops failed across much of northern Europe. People could not plant or harvest their food. This led to widespread starvation. The bad weather continued for several years. Millions of people died from hunger. Disease also spread easily among the weakened population. It was a terrible time for many. These are just a few examples. Many other societies have faced similar climate disasters. The Norse Greenlanders struggled with a cooling climate. This eventually led to the end of their settlements. The ancestral Puebloans in North America also faced droughts. These droughts forced them to move from their cliff dwellings. Each event shows how dependent societies are on stable climate. When the climate changes drastically, survival becomes hard. It tests the limits of human ingenuity. Societies unraveling the wider impact of environmental change. When climate changes, the first impact is often on food. The Akkadians saw their grain production plummet. This meant there was not enough food for everyone. People grew hungry and desperate. This food shortage likely led to social unrest. People may have fought over scarce resources. The central authority of the Akkadian kings weakened. Without food and order, cities could not function. Eventually, people abandoned their urban centers. The empire collapsed into smaller regional powers. For the Maya, repeated droughts had similar devastating effects. Failed harvests led to malnutrition and hunger. This weakened the population. It also undermined the authority of Maya rulers. These rulers were seen as intermediaries with the gods. They were expected to ensure good harvests. When they failed, people lost faith in them. This likely led to political instability and conflict. Some scholars believe warfare between Maya cities increased. Society began to break down slowly. The Great Famine in medieval Europe had profound consequences. Massive starvation was the most direct result, but it also led to an increase in crime. Social order frayed as people struggled to survive. The authority of the church and nobility was questioned. Why couldn't they prevent such suffering? The famine weakened the population physically. This made them more vulnerable to diseases. Some historians suggest the Great Famine set the stage for the Black Death. The plague arrived a few decades later. These events show that climate disasters are not just about bad weather. They trigger a cascade of problems. Agricultural failure leads to food shortages. Food shortages lead to hunger and social unrest. Political systems can become unstable. People may lose faith in their leaders. Economies can collapse as trade and production stop. Sometimes societies adapt and recover, other times they are changed forever, or they might disappear completely from the historical record. Learning from the past. Resilience in a warming world. The stories of past climate disasters are not just history, they hold vital lessons for our world today. We are currently facing rapid climate change. Global temperatures are rising, extreme weather events are becoming more common. We see more droughts, floods, and powerful storms. These ancient societies show us our own vulnerabilities. Even strong and advanced cultures were affected by climate. We should not think we are immune to such forces. Understanding past societal responses is crucial. Some societies tried to adapt, they built irrigation systems or changed their crops. Sometimes these efforts were successful for a while. Other times the changes were too large or too fast. The Akkadians and Maya could not overcome the prolonged droughts. Their systems were not flexible enough. This teaches us the importance of building resilient systems. We need to be able to cope with unexpected shocks. We must be prepared for change. One key lesson is the need for diversification. Societies that relied on a single food source were vulnerable. When that source failed, they had few alternatives. Today, we need diverse food systems. We also need diverse energy sources. Relying too much on one thing is risky. Another lesson is the importance of cooperation. Climate change is a global problem. It requires global solutions. Past societies often fragmented under stress. We must learn to work together instead. Building a resilient future means taking these lessons seriously. We need to invest in scientific research. We must understand how our climate is changing. We need to develop adaptive strategies. This includes better water management. It means protecting our ecosystems. It also means supporting communities that are most vulnerable. History shows that ignoring climate warnings can lead to disaster. By learning from the past, we can better prepare for the future. We can strive to build a world that can withstand climate challenges.